In a previous lesson, I taught you how to write a formula to send an email with zero VBA code. The only drawback is that if you have a big body with a lot of characters, then it might not work. I'm anyways gonna put a link to this lesson, so if for those of you who don't like VBA and want a simple solution, you can use the solution there. But in this lesson, I'm gonna teach you how to use VBA to do the same thing, and I'm gonna put a link so you can download this workbook and you can use the code. But first, let's see how it works. So if I click on this envelope after setting up a few variables, I will get an email with multiple recipients, CC, BCC, a subject, an attachment, a body, and a table. Now, before we go into the code, I'm first going to show you how to set up the sheet, and then we'll understand the code so you can modify it for your needs. So here I have all my variables. So in my to, I have the people I want to send to, and notice here I have a semicolon between the recipients. Here is my CC, BCC, subject, then I have the body, so I can write anything here. Because we're going to use HTML, if you want to go to the line, you need to write this code. You do an arrow to the left, then BR, then an arrow to the right. So every time you write this, it will go to the line. So for example, I'm going to say hello, then this, then hello. And then we have an attachment. The attachment is where your attachment lies on your computer or anywhere you want to pick it from. So if you use my sheet, you're gonna get an error because I have an attachment that is on my computer. So before you try my sheet, you need to specify the location of your attachment. And the last one is a range where my table with the data lies. So for example, here I have B12 to D15, which is here. So I'm telling my code to pick up this and put it in the email. And then you have this icon. Now, how do we do this? Well, you go to insert, you have illustrations, then you have icons, then you can go, you type mail, and you have so many options. So for example, if I pick up this one, I do insert, I get it here, and then I can color it. So for example, here under graphic formats, I have graphic fills. So if I click here and I select, let's say, the green color, you can see that I have a green envelope. And then if I right click on it, I do assign macro. I have the macros in this workbook. If I select this and say OK, now if I click on this, I'm gonna get the email. So this is how we have set up this envelope. So now we're gonna delete it. So I'm just gonna cut it to delete it. And we're gonna go to the code to understand how it works. So we go to the code and we see that I have two modules. Now for those of you who cannot access this because you don't have, for example, developer or the code is not open, what you could do is you go anywhere. Let's say I'm in view, I go on the right side, I do customize the ribbon, and here I need to tick this developer tab. So I have it ticked. I can also go to developer, click on Visual Basic, and I get this that will open. If you see here, I have one sheet that is sheet 1, and here I have a couple of modules. To add a module, you just go here, right click, insert, module, and you get an additional module. You can rename it here. So I'm just gonna delete this module, remove module, and say no, to keep my two module. Now this VBA code has, if you want, 3 functions. The first one, which is launch emails, is the function that is calling up my other functions to perform the activity, and it gives all the details that are required for the email. We're going to look at it at the end. And here in the second module, I have 2 functions. I have the function that takes parameters and send the email, and as you can see, it's not a very big function. And I have a function that looks scary, but we don't need to learn it because what it does basically is that it converts a range into HTML. Why do I need this? Because here I have my range. I need to convert it to HTML because in my code I'm using something called HTML body. So this takes the range and just converts it to HTML. So we don't need to worry how it works, etc. You just need to give it a range and then it will do the trick. Let's start understanding this function or this sub. This sub has a lot of variables. So it has send to, they're all text. CC, send BCC, subject, if you see here, body. This is the range. I have it as a text also because it's called string. And then the attachment, which is also a text, and it shows you the location of the attachment. As we saw before, this is the location of the attachment. You can see this is an Excel file because at the end I have Excel SX. We go back here. The first thing that it does, it will create an Outlook application object. So we have a dim object Outlook as object, and then we just say create an object Outlook application. As simple as this. The second step is to create an email object. So we created the Outlook application object, then an email object. It's the same thing. We create another object, and then we do the Outlook application dot create item, and we create this email object. The next one is setting up this range. As I told you, in this example, we are taking a table and putting it in the mail. And what we are doing is creating a range, and we are saying set this range as a range, and we are taking the string range that I have specified here. So to explain to you how it works, we go back again. We see that here we gave an input as B12 to D15. So I go back to the code. If you see, this is my input. It's a text, right? So here, what I'm doing, I'm saying range, and I'm putting this text. So as if I did range B12 to D15, because I just put this parameter into this. So now I converted my text into a range. And there, this is where the magic happens. So we have with, and then we have and with, and inside you have everything. So if there is something that you don't want, for example, I don't want to have anybody in CC anymore, I can just come here and comment it with an apostrophe. It becomes green, and then you don't have any more a problem because it will not anymore look at this CC. So here we have the two. We are just inputting all our variables. So send2 is here, we'll put it here. Send_cc, we'll put it here. BCC is here. The subject also, all text, so it's string. And then here we have the HTML body. So in HTML body, I'm typing something. So this is my body, which is also a text. And then I need my table. As I told you, because it's HTML, your table needs to be converted to HTML. So I already created a range here from my text. What I do is I just send this range calling this other function, range to HTML. And as you can see, it takes a range. So I'm sending this range here, converting it to HTML, and I get it back. Now here you can also modify. So for example, if you want to write something, then have a table, then write something else, you can just add an and say, for example, regards. Or you can pick it up from your Excel sheet and so on and add your parameters. Then you have the attachments. So here you have attachment.add, and you specify the location of your attachment, and then you display the mail. In order to send the mail, you need to change this display to .send. I personally do not recommend you to do this because I always like to check my emails before I send them instead of sending them automatically. So display is a good thing because it will show you the email, then you can press send. And then you're just clearing these objects from memory, so you're not taking space in the memory. So this is how this function works basically. It's really simple to understand and it's commented. So whatever you need to change, if you know a little bit of VBA, it won't be very difficult. But then you can see that this has parameters. So we need to call it. In order to call it, we go to this one. In this one, you need to forget about those first, this and this. Only look at this. I have call, send email, and I'm picking up the variables. So I have sheet 1. Why do I have sheet 1? Because the sheet that I have is sheet 1. if I go to here, I add another sheet and I go back to VBA, you see I have now sheet 2. So depending on your sheet, and you need to look at this and not the name in the parentheses, you can change all this sheet 1 that you have in this call. And then you have the range. So I have A, B, C, and so on, which are, if I go back here, it's A, B, C. This is where I have my data, right? So from there, I'm picking up the information, sending it to this function, and then the function is doing the rest. Now, I made it a little bit more sophisticated because assume that you have more than one email to send. So I'm just going to copy this at the bottom here, and let's say this is mail 2. I don't want to have to write every time call, 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 call. So what am I doing? I'm starting with an index at 2, and then I'm going line by line and calling my function to send an email. So we go back, we have an index I took it as long, I started at the second row, and then I'm saying while sheet1.range a, and here it starts at 2, dot value is different than nothing, call this function and then increment it by 1. What does it mean? If we go back here, we're saying this is the index is 2, right? Call the function with these parameters, and then go to 3, call the function with these parameters. Then this is blank, you just stop. So don't forget the I equal I plus 1, otherwise you'll have an infinite loop. So if I go back to my Excel, and now I press on this, I'm gonna get 2 emails. So you can see here, I have mail 1 and mail 2. So this is mail 2 with the data, and this is mail 1 with the data. Now this is it, folks. You can download this Excel workbook and modify it as you like. If you want me to show you how to aggregate this without having to put them all in one cell, because I know a lot of time you'll have the first recipient, and then you'll have the second recipient here, and so on. So you don't want always to aggregate them in one cell. You might have them here and you want to pick them one by one and put them all in one email. So if you want me to show you how I could take all this and transform it into one cell, please let me know in the comments.